Welcome back to This is Thailand. I'm glad you're here. Tonight's story is a bit different to the usual one we tell on this channel. There's no bar girl in a short skirt on Walking Street. There's no neon. There's no grinning con man in a polo shirt promising to triple your money. What there is a 63-year-old roofer from Townsville called Daza Whitfield, who beat bowel cancer at 62, sold the family home for 640,000 Australian dollars, and went looking for somewhere warm to spend whatever time he reckoned he had left. He didn't go to Pattaya. He went to a quiet town on the Mekong River. He didn't fall for a bar girl. He fell for a woman who remembered his medical history. He didn't think he was being a fool. He thought he was being lucky for the first time in his life. And what happened to Daza over the next 14 months is the kind of story that doesn't fit neatly into the usual cautionary tale. There's no villain in a black hat. There's a noodle shop in a village outside Nong Khai. There's a concrete block bungalow with a tin roof he laid himself. There's a young woman who couldn't keep a secret on the third night of Songkran. And there's a quiet unit in Kerwin, $380 a week, where he sits now and watches the cricket on his own. I'll let him tell the rest. Here's Daza in his own words. Yeah. G'day. So, where do I start with this one? Probably Townsville, eh? That's where I was when the wheels started coming off, even though I didn't know they were coming off yet. 45 years on roofs, started at 17, pulled my last sheet of color bond off a job in Annandale at 60. That's the lot. Mackay first did my apprenticeship there with a bloke called Bull Henderson, who's been dead 20 years now, then up and down the coast. Bowen, Proserpine, eventually settled in Townsville in '89 because Karen wanted to be near her mother. Tin roofs mostly. Bit of tile work when the money was good. Hot work. Bloody hot. You haven't lived till you've been on a black color bond roof in February with the sun coming straight back up at you off the metal. I used to drink 3 liters of water before smoko and still piss the color of cask wine. 2 marriages. Karen left in '94, took the kids. Fair enough, I was never home. Linda lasted longer, bless her. Gave me the better part of 17 years before she packed up and went to her sister's in Cairns in 2011. Took the dog, and honestly the dog was the bigger loss, mate. Linda I could see coming. The dog blindsided me. After that it was just me. Bought the Queenslander in Hermit Park off a mate who was downsizing. Did the place up myself on weekends. My son Brad's in WA, in the mines, doing all right for himself. Texts on Father's Day if I'm lucky. Once on my birthday, if I'm extra lucky. I don't blame him. That's just how it went. Boys get to a certain age, they don't need their old man, and their old man doesn't really know how to ask for them either. So you don't. Right. So, cancer, February 2022. I was on a job in Annandale. Re-roof, 2-story, nothing flash. Went to take a piss behind the trailer at Smoko, and it came out the color of a Shiraz. I knew I'm not stupid. I went home, didn't tell anyone, didn't call my GP for 2 weeks because I'm a bloke and that's what blokes do. Eventually, my sister Trish dragged me in. Colonoscopy. Stage 3. Bowel cancer, decent-sized tumor. Get it out next week or it's getting worse. 18 months of it, all up. Surgery, then chemo. Then more chemo when the first lot didn't quite finish the job. I dropped from 110 kilos to 78. Lost the hair, eyebrows, the lot. Trish bought me one of those novelty wigs off Wish. Bright orange, looked like a clown. And I wore it to chemo a couple of times to make the nurses laugh. That was about the only laughing I did that year. October 2023, sitting in the oncologist's room at Townsville Hospital. Dr. Patel, lovely bloke, Indian fella, soft voice. He says, "Darren, your scans are clear. You're in remission." Shakes my hand, tells me to keep coming back every 6 months for a while. And I walk out of that office, into the car park, and I just stood there next to the ute. Sun's coming down behind Castle Hill. And I thought, what the bloody hell was all that for then? Like I'd been getting ready to die, mate. Genuinely. I'd updated the will. I'd told Brad over the phone, sort of. I'd made my peace with the fact that the next thing was a hole in the ground at Belgian Gardens Cemetery next to me dad. And then this bloke in a tie says, "No, mate, off you go. You've got more time." And I had no idea what to do with it. Sold the Queenslander. Got 640 grand for it, which was about 100 more than I thought I'd get. Banked the lot, kept the Super sitting where it was, moved into a little rental over near the Strand, and then I just sat, 6 months, sat in a recliner watching Test cricket replays from 1989 because I couldn't be bothered finding out what was on now. Trish kept ringing. I kept saying, yeah, I'm fine, yeah, I'm fine. I wasn't fine. I had 95 grand in cash and nothing to do with it, and nobody who needed me to do anything with it either. Started going down to the RSL on Thursdays. That's where Macca got me. Macca's an old roofer, retired 10 years ahead of me, used to work out of air. He'd been going to Pattaya since the 90s, 3 months on, 3 months off, big red face, gold chain. You know the type. He saw me sitting at the bar one Thursday with a pot of XXXX and a face like a wet weekend. And he sat down next to me and said, Daz, mate, you need to get out of this country for a bit. I told him I wasn't going to Pattaya. I'd seen his Facebook, the bar girls, the neon, all that caper. Not for me, never been for me, even when I was younger. He said, mate, Pattaya's not the only place. Go up north, Isayan. Quiet, cheap, the food will put weight back on you, and the women up there are the genuine article. None of that bar nonsense. I said, how much? He said, well, Daz, 2 grand a month and you're living like a king. The first went home that night and looked up flights. Booked one to Udon, Thani 2 weeks later. Didn't tell Trish, didn't tell Brad, didn't tell anyone, because if I told anyone, they'd talk me out of it. And at that point, I was so sick of staring at the ceiling fan that getting talked out of anything would have finished me. That's how it started. A bloke at the RSL and a one-way ticket to a town I couldn't have pointed to on a map a month before. Thought I was running towards something. Reckon I was just running. Udon Thani International Airport, March 2024. Wet Tuesday afternoon. I remember the wet bit because I'd never thought of Thailand as wet. I'd thought of it as hot, which is what an idiot from Townsville thinks of a place he's never been. Walked out of the terminal and the air hit me like a wet tea towel across the face. Sticky, heavy, smelled like rain on hot concrete and something else underneath. Something sweet I couldn't place. Frangipani maybe. Diesel from the taxi rank. I had one suitcase. One. 63 years old, walking into a foreign country with one suitcase, a passport, and a printout of a hotel booking from booking.com. Trish would have had a stroke if she'd known. Brad would have laughed. I hadn't told either of them. Just texted Trish from the gate at Brisbane, saying I was going overseas for a bit and not to worry, and switched the phone to airplane mode before she could ring back. The bloke at immigration looked at my passport, looked at me, looked at the passport again, stamped it. 30 days. Didn't ask a single question. I half expected an interrogation. What are you doing here, sir? Who do you know? Where are you staying? But no, just a stamp and a nod. I walked out into the arrivals hall and a Thai bloke in a bright pink shirt was holding up a sign with my name spelled wrong. Mr. Darren Whitfield. Close enough. Why Udon and not Pattaya? I know that's the question every old bloke watching this is asking, because I'd seen Macca's photos. I'd seen the walking street videos on YouTube, the neon, the bar girls grabbing your arm, the music going boom, boom, boom out of every doorway. That wasn't me. I wasn't going there to chase anything. I was going there to be left alone, basically in a place where nobody knew about the colostomy scar or the bald patch growing back in, or the fact that I'd cried in my sister's car after a chemo session because I couldn't open a bottle of water. I wanted to be a stranger. I wanted my body to feel warm again. That was the whole list. Macca had said, Isan, quiet, cheap. Real Thailand, he reckoned, whatever that meant. I'd booked a serviced apartment near Nong Project Park for a month. 18,000 baht for the lot, about 800 Aussie. Pink driver dropped me off, helped me up with the suitcase. Didn't ask for a tip, but I gave him 100 baht because I didn't know any better. And his face went all funny like I'd insulted him. Took me a while to work out. You don't really tip taxi drivers here. They round up. That's the whole transaction. The apartment was on the 5th floor. Tiles, aircon that sounded like a tractor starting, a balcony looking out over the park. I dropped the suitcase, sat on the edge of the bed, and I just sat there for about an hour, listening. There were motorbikes down on the road, a bloke selling something through a loudspeaker on a ute. The same line over and over in Thai. No idea what. Temple bells from somewhere. A rooster. A rooster in the middle of a city. That's when I knew I wasn't in Townsville anymore. The first week I just walked. Got up at 6 before it got too hot. Walked around the lake at Nong Prajak. There were old Thai blokes doing Tai Chi and old Thai ladies doing some kind of dance class with a portable speaker playing music that sounded like it was from a 1970s game show. I was the only Farang out there mostly. People nodded, smiled, left me alone. Bloody perfect. Got into the food fast. There's a night market on Projak Road. I went there on the second night, pointed at things, and ate like a king for about 150 baht. Maybe $7. Som, tam, papaya salad. Nearly killed me the first time. The lady making it asked something I didn't understand, and I just nodded yes. And she put what looked like a fistful of those tiny chilies in. I had 2 bites and my eyes watered for 45 minutes. The whole stall laughed. I laughed, mate. First proper laugh I'd had in 2 years. I went back the next night and pointed at a bowl of cow soy instead, and she remembered me and held up one finger for the chilies, eyebrows up, like only one this time. I gave her a thumbs up. We had a relationship now. Bought a second-hand Honda Click off an Irish bloke who was leaving. He'd been teaching at a language school for 6 years and was packing up because his mum was crook back home. 25,000 baht, about 1,100 Aussie. He threw in a helmet that smelled like someone else's hair in a phone holder. I'd ridden bikes my whole life. Every roofer worth his salt has a motorbike at some point. But riding in Thailand was different. The first time I went out into traffic in Udon, I nearly turned around and went back. Bikes coming the wrong way down the lane, families of 4 on a single Honda Wave, kids on the petrol tank, no helmets, all of them texting. After about a week, I worked out the trick was just to relax, go with it, don't try to fight the flow. Same as roofing. You don't fight the pitch, you work with it. By the end of the second week, I'd lost 5 kilos. 5. Just from eating better food and walking and riding. I stood on the scales in the apartment bathroom and laughed out loud. The cancer had taken it off me one way. Thailand was putting it back the other way, the right way. I felt like a body again, not a problem. Week 3, I got the itch to ride further. Maka had mentioned Nong Khai, 60 kilometers north, on the Mekong, looking across at Laos. He said it was sleepy, said the Mekong was prettier than the Nile, which was probably bollocks, but it stuck with me. I packed a backpack, told nobody, and left at 6 in the morning. The ride up Highway 2 was the best ride of my life, I reckon. Rice paddies on both sides, the green so green it didn't look real, water buffalo standing in the ditches like they owned the place. Spirit houses outside every property, little gold ones with offerings of red Fanta and bananas. Trucks overtook me doing about 120 with their hazards on. I just kept it at 60 in the slow lane and let them go. Got into Nong Khai about 9:30. Found my way to the riverside. There's a long promenade that runs along the Mekong with restaurants and little stalls. The river was wider than I'd expected. Brown, slow, lazy. Laos was just there on the other side. Low green hills and a couple of buildings, like another country, was just a swim away. I was hungry and I was hot. I walked along until I saw a little restaurant with a tin awning and a hand-painted sign with a fish on it. Pla something. I never did learn the name properly. Plastic chairs, 3 tables out the front, empty except for an older Thai woman sitting at the back doing accounts on a calculator. I sat down. She came over with a menu in Thai with no pictures. I pointed at the table next to me. There'd been somebody there before me, plate not cleared yet, and said, "Same as that, please." She nodded, disappeared into the back. A minute later, a different woman came out with a glass of water and a paper napkin. Younger, jeans, white t-shirt, hair in a low ponytail. She put the water down, looked at me properly for the first time, and smiled. "Hello," she said, slowly, carefully, like she was checking she'd got it right. "G'day," I said. She blinked at that, then laughed. A real laugh, not a polite one. Like she'd never heard the word before and thought it was a stupid sound, which it is when you think about it. That was Pim, I didn't know it yet. I just knew the cow soy when it came was the best thing I'd ever eaten, and I'd ride back the next weekend and the one after that. Pim, Sukanya on her ID card. 34 years old, 5 foot nothing, slim but not skinny, hair always in that low ponytail with a couple of strands escaping. Faded Carabao Dow t-shirt, the one with the buffalo on it, that beer that tastes like petrol, and jeans with paint on the knee. No makeup that I could see, no jewelry. Looked like she'd just come in off a bike ride, which she probably had. Now look, I've got to be honest with you here, because if I'm not honest about this part, the whole story falls over. I'd been warned. Macca had given me the full sermon at the RSL the week before I left. Don't pay for anyone in the first month. Don't move anyone in. Don't meet the family. Don't. And I'd nodded along like a bloke who was going to take advice. I wasn't. But here's the thing. Pim didn't pattern match to any of that. Not even close. The bar girl thing Macca had warned me about, that's its own world with its own scripts. Pim wasn't running a script. She didn't ask what I did for work. She didn't ask where I lived back home. She didn't ask my age, my marital status, whether I had kids. The first 3 Saturdays I went to that restaurant, she just brought me food, laughed at my tie, told me about whatever the special was that day. That was it. I was the one who started asking her questions through Google Translate on my phone. Where do you live? Do you work here every day? Do you have family? Slow answers. Sometimes she'd type a sentence in Thai, and the translation would come out in this stiff English like a 1950s textbook. I do not work here every day, sir. I help my cousin on Saturday and Sunday because I love her very much. I was charmed off my feet by that, mate, by a robot voice on a phone. Bit by bit, over those first weekends, the picture filled in. She was divorced. Had a daughter, 11 years old, called Fern. Well, that's the nickname. Her real name was something 3 syllables long that I never could pronounce. Fern lived with Pim's mother in a village about an hour and a half west of Nong Khai, near Sangkum. Pim worked Monday to Friday at a cosmetics counter in a Tesco Lotus in Udon. That's where her English was all right enough to handle a foreigner, dealing with the occasional Farang buying his missus a lipstick. Weekends, she'd ride up to her cousin's restaurant in Nong Khai because the cousin had had a hip-hop and needed help. Slept upstairs in a spare room. Paid in food and a couple of 100 baht. She'd learned English off Korean dramas with subtitles mostly. She told me that, and I thought she was joking, but no, she was dead serious. Said she'd watched the same one about 20 times, Crash Landing on You, until she could recite the dialogue. Then she switched to YouTube videos teaching English. Slow, patient learning, on her own, no school, no class. That was Pim all over, I'd find out. She just chipped away at things. No fuss. By the end of April, I'd given up on the apartment in Udon and moved up to Nong Khai. Found a little place near the riverside, 12,000 baht a month, 600 Aussie. Nothing flash. 1 bedroom, kitchenette, fan plus aircon, no view to speak of. Suited me fine. I told Pim. She nodded. Didn't say much, but that night she came over with a plastic bag full of stuff from the Tesco. Soy sauce, fish sauce, some chilies, a wok, a rice cooker that looked older than her, and she cooked me dinner. Stir fry with basil and chicken, krapow. I'd had it in restaurants before, but hers was different. More garlic, more chili. She cooked it standing in my kitchenette in her socks, humming something I didn't know. And I sat at the little plastic table and watched her. And I thought, bloody hell, mate, what is happening to me? She wouldn't take money for the groceries. I tried 3 times. The first time she said, no, is gift, welcome new home. The second time she said, next time, maybe. The third time she just laughed and walked out the door with the empty bag. We weren't together, technically. She didn't sleep over. She'd cook, we'd eat. We'd sit on the little balcony with a chang each. She drank chang, surprised me. I'd pegged her for a wine cooler type. And we'd talk through the phone. Then about 10, she'd ride back to her cousin's place. I'd watch her go down the soy on her old Honda Wave, no helmet, ponytail flying, and I'd stand on the balcony like an idiot until I couldn't see her taillight anymore. The motorbike thing happened end of April. She was meant to come over Saturday morning to take me to a market she talked up. 8 o'clock, nothing. 9, nothing. I started to think maybe I'd misread the whole thing. She's bored of you, mate. She's not coming. Fair enough. When she turned up just before 10, on foot, sweating, eyes red. Bike had been impounded. She hadn't made the loan payments. She'd been juggling between her wages, what she sent her mom, Fern's school expenses, and the bike. And the bike had lost. Some bloke from the finance company had turned up at the cosmetics counter in front of her boss and her colleagues. Took the keys. Took her face, mate. That's the bit that got her. Not losing the bike. Losing face in front of people she worked with. She wouldn't look at me when she told me. Sat on the edge of my couch with her hands in her lap like a kid in the principal's office. The amount was 45,000 baht, about 2 grand Aussie. To me, that's a Saturday at the tab if I'm having a stupid day. To her, that was 3 months' wages. 3 months. I went down to the ATM in my thongs, took out the cash, came back, put it on the table, said, "Let's go get your bike back, love," she cried. Not the polite kind of cry. Proper crying, hand over her mouth, shoulders going. Kept saying, "No, no, I pay you back. I pay back every month, please. I pay you back." I told her not to be silly. I told her it was nothing. And mate, to me it was nothing. That's the truth. 2 grand on a bike loan when I had 90-odd grand sitting in the ANZ. I didn't even feel the dent. I think about that moment. The ATM trip. Walking back up the SOI in my thongs with 5 purple 1,000 baht notes in my pocket. That's the moment I should have stopped. Not because helping her was wrong exactly, but because I made it feel like nothing. And once you make money feel like nothing in front of someone for whom money is everything, the dynamic is set. You can't unring that bell. Didn't see it then. Saw a woman in trouble and a wallet that could fix it. Mid-May, she said she wanted to take me to meet Fern. 2-hour ride west to her mum's village. We went on a Sunday. I rode the click. She rode pillion behind me with her arms around my middle and her cheek on my back. And that ride is honestly burned into me. The rice paddies, the heat coming off the road, her holding on, me grinning like a bloody idiot inside the helmet. The village was nothing. 20 houses on a dusty road, a temple at one end, a noodle stall at the other. Pim's mum's place was a wooden one on stilts, paint coming off, dogs underneath, chickens in the yard. May Deng came out, short, round, big smile, sun-cracked face, and she put her hands together and gave me a way before I could give her one. Fern was hiding behind her grandma, 11 years old in a school uniform t-shirt and shorts, haircut blunt across her forehead. Wouldn't look at me at first. Eventually she came out and showed me a drawing she'd done. Uncle Faring, it said in pencil at the top. Pim must have told her my name, or near enough, and it was a stick figure of me with a triangle for a hat, even though I wasn't wearing one, and a dog beside me, even though I didn't have one. I crouched down and told her it was the best drawing of me anyone had ever done. Pim translated. Fern laughed behind her hand. We ate sticky rice and grilled chicken and some tam under a tin awning out the back. May Deng kept pressing food into my hand. At one point she leaned across the table, said something to Pim, and Pim handed me her phone with the translation up. "You good man, my daughter happy." "Thank you." And mate, I had to look at the chickens for a minute. 11-year-old kid sitting opposite me, mum and grandma both watching, and I nearly went on them in front of the lot. 45 years on roofs, and I was about to cry over a translated sentence on a Samsung. The ride home that evening, sun going down behind us, Pim's arms tight around my middle. I knew, whatever this was, I wasn't a tourist anymore. I'd belonged to nobody for 12 years. Now this little family in a village I couldn't pronounce was glad to see me, glad to feed me, glad I existed. That's what I bought that day. Not love exactly, belonging. And it was the most expensive thing I ever paid for. June. Hot season turning into the start of the wet, that funny in-between when the air thickens up and the storms come every afternoon at 4 o'clock like clockwork. I was up at the village most weekends now. Pim would finish at the Tesco Friday night, ride down to my place in Nong Khai, And Saturday morning, we'd both ride out to her mum's. 2 bikes in convoy, her in front because she knew the back roads. I'd started learning the family. That takes a while in Ison. There's no clean tree, mate. There's cousins who live with you, aunts who are basically mums, brothers, wives, brothers turning up for a feed, kids who belong to nobody in particular, but everybody at the same time. I gave up trying to map it, just smiled and nodded and ate whatever they put in front of me. May Dang was the one I clicked with first. Older woman, sun-cracked, missing a couple of teeth on the side, laughed at everything. Made the best larb guy I've ever had. Minced chicken with toasted rice and lime and chili and mint, eaten with sticky rice rolled into balls in your fingers. Poor Somchai, Pim's dad, was harder work. Quiet bloke. Sat on the porch most of the day chewing betel nut and watching nothing. He'd weigh me politely the first few visits, and that was about it. Took him about a month to start nodding when I came in. 2 months before he handed me a bottle of Chang without me asking. Then there was T, Pim's older brother. 40, divorced, lived in the next village over, had this cocky walk about him and a gold chain you could see from 20 paces. Hong Thong drinker. That brown whiskey that tastes like cough syrup and motor oil. I didn't take to tea at first. Bit too smiley, bit too quick to call me brother. But Pim adored him, and May Dang adored him, and so I worked at it. It was T who set the first one off. June, second weekend. Family dinner. All of us round the low table out the back of the house, fan blowing, mosquitoes everywhere. He's 2 whiskeys deep, and he says, casual as you like, in his bit of English. Farang, you know my mother is sick? Sugar in blood. Bad. Doctors say need new medicine, but expensive. Pim went still. I remember that bit clearly. She put her chopsticks down and didn't look up. She didn't say a word. I asked how much. T shrugged like it was nothing. Maybe 40,000 baht for medicine, 3 months. And glucose machine, this little one, you stick the finger. He mimed it. Maybe 10,000 more. And to go Udon hospital for proper check, this is also some money. I did the maths in my head. 60 grand baht. 2,500 Aussie. Not nothing. But May Dang was sitting opposite me, smiling at me like I was her favorite thing in the world. And T was looking at me with this hopeful expression like, I know I'm asking, brother, but I'm asking, and Pim still wouldn't look up. I said, yeah, mate, no worries, I'll sort it. Just like that. Pim's head came up. She started shaking it. No, Daz, you no need. But her eyes were wet, and May Dang had already weighed me from across the table with her hands together near her face. I think about that moment a lot. The way T asked, the way Pim went quiet. There's a thing they call kreng jai over there. It's like you don't ask directly for something because it puts the other person on the spot. So you mention it. You let it sit. You let the foreigner volunteer. And the foreigner thinks he's being generous of his own free will. And the family thinks he's behaving like a proper son-in-law. And the woman in the middle never has to ask. Everybody keeps face. Everybody wins. I didn't know about kreng jai then. I just thought I was being a decent bloke. 2 weeks later, poor Somchai. Cataracts, both eyes, getting worse. The government hospital in Nong Khai had him on a wait list. 18 months. There's a private clinic in Udon where they could do it next month. Pim's the one who told me this time, not T. She was apologetic about it, kept saying he didn't need to do it now. Could wait, but he was nearly blind in one eye, and he was an old bloke who liked to walk to the temple every morning, and he was tripping on tree roots. 120 grand baht, 5 and a bit thousand Aussie. Both eyes done, anesthetist, follow-ups, the lot. I drove him to the clinic myself, sat in the waiting room reading a Thai gossip magazine I couldn't read. When they wheeled him out, he was wearing those little cardboard sunglasses, and he reached up and patted my arm and said something I didn't understand. And the nurse translated. He say, my son. That bit got me. My son. From a bloke who'd taken 2 months to nod at me. Tally up to that point. Bike loan in April, 45,000. Medical in June, 60,000. Cataracts in July, 120,000. 2.25 lakh baht, near enough. 10 grand Aussie out of 95. But here's the thing the math doesn't catch. I wasn't just spending the money, I was buying a position. Karen's parents had hated me. Linda's were dead. Brad's mum's family treated me like I was a draft she'd had to put up with. I'd never been a son-in-law, mate. Never. And here was this old woman with the diabetes calling me her son, and an old bloke patting my arm in cardboard sunglasses, and a cocky brother calling me brother and meaning it, or seeming to. That was worth 10 grand. That was worth more than 10 grand. That was worth the lot. July T started talking about the noodle shop. Casual at first, over Chong on the porch, the way T did everything. My friend, he have small place on the road. Already kitchen. He sell. Want to go Bangkok. Pim, she good cook. You know, my sister. I nodded along. He let it sit a week, brought it up again. Said he'd do the running of it, but really Pim would. Said Pim could be a Jiaokong. Owner. Said it slow and watched my face when he said it. 6 weeks of dinners, of him bringing it up and dropping it, of Mei Deng's face lighting up every time, of Pim saying we don't have to in a voice that meant I want to. By the time September rolled around, the conversation had stopped being about should we and started being about how much. 850,000 baht, 38 grand Aussie, lease takeover, kitchen refit, signage, 3 months of stock and wages, a buffer for slow weeks. T had it all itemized on a piece of paper and pencil, in Thai, with the numbers in Western digits. We went to a lawyer in Udon, some expat at a coffee shop on Niman. Well, not Niman, that's Chiang Mai, I'm muddling them up. At a coffee shop in Udon, anyway, had given me the bloke's name. Thai bloke, 50s, suit, nice office above a 7-Eleven. He sat me down and explained the company structure with a little diagram on a notepad. 3 Thai shareholders required by law. T at 51%, majority. Pim at 20. A cousin of Pim's I'd never met at 0. A placeholder, just to make the numbers work. Me at 49. I asked, and the cash? The lawyer smiled. You loan to company. Director loan. On paper, standard. I nodded. He pushed a contract across in Thai. 3 pages. Tabbed where I needed to sign. I sat there with the pen in my hand and I thought about asking for a translation. Genuinely thought about it. Then I looked at T, who was beaming, and I thought, if I ask for a translation now, in front of him, after months of this, I'm calling him a liar. I signed. The shop opened mid-September. Be October. The shop had been open 3 weeks, and we were doing, well, all right. Not bum-run grad private hospital, all right, but all right. Pim was a machine in that kitchen. Up at 5, prepping broth, chopping coriander and spring onions and Thai basil into bowls of cold water, getting the rice noodles and the egg noodles laid out in trays. By 7, the school kids were in for breakfast. 20 baht for a small bowl of jok, rice porridge with a fried egg cracked in. By 9, the road workers came through. By midday, she had a queue out the door for guai tuna mu, pork noodle soup, and her version of the broth was something else. Mate, anise and cinnamon and white pepper, and a load of garlic she'd fried in pork fat herself. I wasn't in the kitchen. I'd have been a liability in there. What I did was the bloke jobs. Run to the wholesale market in Udon at 5 in the morning twice a week. Ute borrowed from T. Come back with sacks of rice and crates of vegetables. Fix the gas regulator when it played up. Talk to the bloke who delivered the ice. Farang prices were a thing, and Pim had to be careful not to send me to negotiate. But I could carry the bags from the truck. The tin roof over the back kitchen was buggered, properly buggered, rusted through in 3 spots, the flashing around the chimney pipe non-existent, the whole sheet sagging in the middle, so when it rained, the kitchen got a bit of weather. First time I climbed up to look at it, I nearly went straight through. 40-something-year-old corrugated iron, roof screws gone to powder, no underlay, no insulation. A bloody disgrace by any standard a Queensland roofer's been raised on. I'd had a box of my proper tools shipped over from Townsville in July. Cost me about $400 in freight, which gave me a chuckle, paying $400 to import the tools so I could work for free. But I needed them. Real snips, a proper edge crimper, my old electric shear that I'd had since '93, decent gloves. The Thai roofers I'd seen on jobs around the village wore thongs and held sheets down with their feet, mate. Fearless. Mad. But you don't get to be 63 on a roof by being fearless. Took the old sheets off in a day. Relaid the battens. Replaced two that were rotten. Put new sheets on. Did proper flashing around the chimney with silicone and lead. Ran a drip edge the length of it. 3 days. Village kids stood in the road and watched the whole time. The mums came with bottles of cold water for me. May Dang brought me sticky rice and grilled chicken at lunchtime, and Pim brought a chang up the ladder in a cooler bag at 4 o'clock when I knocked off. That was the happiest I'd been in 15 years, mate. 20 years. I'm not exaggerating. Up on a tin roof in Izan with the sun on my back and the colostomy scar healed up and a proper job to finish and a woman bringing me a cold beer at the end of the day. If you'd told me sitting in that recliner in Townsville 18 months earlier that this was what was waiting, I'd have laughed at you. I genuinely would have. I thought my best days were behind me. They weren't. They were ahead of me. And then they were behind me again very quickly, but that's the next bit. November, the house thing started. Slow burn, tea-style. Came up first one Saturday over Chong on poor Somchai's porch. Pim was inside doing dishes. The old man was out cold in the hammock. T and me were watching the rain come in over the rice paddies and listening to it hit the tin. This roof, T said and pointed up, is finished. One more rainy season, maybe. I looked up. He wasn't wrong. He wasn't. The wood was so eaten out you could see daylight through it in places where there shouldn't have been daylight. The whole house was on stilts and the stilts had termite damage. I'd noticed the first visit and not said anything because it wasn't my business. Father worry, T said. He don't say, but he worry. Mother also. That was all he said. Didn't ask anything. Didn't suggest anything. Just sipped his chang and watched the rain. I'd spent 45 years on roofs. 45 years. You can't tell a bloke like me a roof's about to fail and expect him to do nothing, especially when there's an old couple under it who've started calling him son. A week later, I brought it up myself. Said, what if I built you a new place? Mayding cried. Pim cried. Poor Somashai went out the back and didn't come in for an hour. T was the one who got practical. Said his cousin's husband was a builder, did concrete block bungalows in the area, could quote a job by the end of the week. The quote came in at 1.4 million baht, 62.5 grand Aussie. 2 bedrooms, proper bathroom with a western toilet, kitchen with a tiled bench, concrete block walls, tin roof I'd put on myself. Land was poor Somchai's, had been in his family 40 years. Deeds in his name at the Amphor office. I knew the law. I'd read about it on the plane over, like a homework I'd done and then forgotten. Foreigners can't own land in Thailand. End of story. There are workarounds. Putting it in your wife's name, leasing for 30 years, company structures. But I wasn't married to Pim, and the land wasn't going to be mine anyway. It was already Somchai's. I wasn't buying property. I was paying for a building to go on land that was already his. That's what I told myself, repeatedly. I'm not buying a house, Daz. I'm buying these people a roof. Drained another 40 grand out of the ANZ to send across in 2 transfers. I'd kept 15 grand sitting in a Bangkok bank account for the retirement visa requirement. 800 grand baht. Untouchable for that purpose. The rest of the build I was paying out of my Aussie savings via wise transfers, in chunks, as the builder asked for them. Construction started December. I was on site every single day. Drove out from Nong Khai at 6, stayed till 5. Pim was at the noodle shop or visiting Fern. The builder was a quiet bloke called Pong who knew his concrete and didn't mind a farang sticking his nose in. We worked in different languages most of the time, me in mime, him in head nods, and we got along. Christmas Day was when the first crack went. I told Pim Christmas wasn't a thing for me, never had been since Linda, but she'd insisted on cooking a proper meal at my apartment in Nong Khai. Roast chicken, no turkey to be had. Mash. She'd even tracked down a pavlova at a French bakery in Udon. No idea how she'd known about pavlova. Probably another of her Korean dramas. Just the 2 of us at the little plastic table. Round 7 o'clock, she went into the bedroom to do a video call with Fern. Said she'd be 10 minutes. I was washing up. I walked past the bedroom door. Wasn't snooping. The kitchen was right there. and I heard Fern's voice through the door, tinny on the phone speaker. "Sawadee ka, Papa." I stopped. I don't speak Thai. I know about 30 words, but I know the word Papa, and it wasn't directed at me. "I was in the kitchen," Pim's voice answered sharp. The door clicked. She'd shut it. Half an hour later, she came out smiling, told me Fern said hi and missed me. I asked, light as I could, was that her uncle on the call too? I thought I heard her say Papa. Pim didn't blink. "Yes, my brother T. She call him Papa sometimes when her real father not around. Is normal." I nodded, smiled, said fair enough, love, went back to the dishes. But I stood at that sink, mate, with my hands in the soapy water, and I had a moment, a clear one. Pim's brother T lives in the village next over, and Fern has lived with her grandma every day for 3 years. Why would Fern call T Papa over a video call? That math didn't add up, not even slightly. I drowned it, finished the dishes, cracked another chang. By the second beer, I'd convinced myself it was a translation thing. Thai families, complicated, kids using kinship terms loose. Maybe Papa meant uncle in his own dialect. Maybe. I think about that moment more than any other one in this whole story. The dishes, the soapy water, the clear thought I had and the way I drowned it. January, T turned up at the noodle shop in a brand new Isuzu D-Max. Black, mud flaps, the chrome step bars. 35-year-old Ute money, mate, somewhere around 800 grand bought. He told me, before I even asked, lease, only lease, for delivery for the shop, you know. He even had a paper folded in his back pocket he started to pull out and then put back. I'd done a few leases on Utes back home. The repayments on a vehicle like that, even on a 5-year lease, would have been 25 grand baht a month. The shop was clearing maybe 40 grand baht a month profit on a good month. That math didn't work either. I drowned that one too. Told myself maybe his other business, he'd mentioned a sideline doing parts for secondhand cars, was where the money came from. Didn't ask to see the lease paperwork. February. Cousin Ake was back. He'd been in twice between October and January, eaten free, left without paying, and I'd let it slide because every village in Thailand has a freeloader cousin. But this time Pim was sharp with him. Spoke fast and low. Wouldn't sit when he tried to get her to. He left in about 6 minutes, didn't finish the bowl. One asked her that night, "Pim, who is Aek really?" I said it casually. I didn't push. She didn't look up from her phone. "Old friend, Daz. From village." No problem. Her phone was face down on the table, like always. The screen-down phone had been a thing for months. I'd never seen the screen of her phone, not once. Old friend. That was the answer. No problem. I let it go. I lay in bed that night listening to the ceiling fan and Pim's slow breathing next to me, and I had the thought again. That clear one, for the first time since Christmas. Daz, mate. Something is wrong here. And then I drowned it. Like I drowned the others. Because the alternative was that I'd built a house, opened a noodle shop, paid for medicines and surgeries, and let an old woman call me her son, all on top of a story I hadn't checked. If you don't check, you don't have to know. That's the deal you make with yourself. And it's a bloody expensive deal as it turns out. The house was finished end of February, painted by mid-March. May Deng moved her old Buddha shrine across the road from the old place to the new one in a wheelbarrow on a Tuesday afternoon. T organized a blessing ceremony for Songkran, mid-April. Monks, a feast, the whole family. He kept saying, "Will be big party, brother." Big. "Yeah," I said. "Should be." Songkran, Thai New Year. Mid-April, the hottest week of the year, the whole country shuts down and turns into a 4-day water fight. Buckets, super soakers, the back of utes loaded with ice baths and teenagers chucking water at anyone who comes near. I'd seen footage. The reality in a village in Isan was quieter. More about family, more about temple, more about merit making, but still wet. Water down the back of your shirt at 6 in the morning while you were trying to drink coffee. Old people with little silver bowls, gentle splashes on the back of your neck. Blessings. Day 1, the blessing ceremony for the new house. 5 monks in saffron robes turned up at 7 in the morning, sat in a row on the new porch, chanted for an hour while the whole family knelt on the concrete with their hands together near their faces. Poor Somchai had a white string tied around his wrist and one tied to the corner of the house, and another running off into the Buddha shrine. Mei Dang was crying through the whole thing. Pim, too. Even T, mate. T was wiping his eyes when he thought nobody was looking. I stood at the back, hands together, and I thought, this is the best day of my life. I'm not being dramatic. I mean it. Better than my wedding to Karen, better than Brad being born even, because I was 23 when Brad was born, and I didn't know what I had. I knew what I had at 63 on that porch in that village. A family, a roof I'd put on with my own hands. A woman crying next to her mother because the dad they'd worried about for 30 years finally had a proper bathroom. Day 2, the village turned up. 100 people, easily. Trestle tables out the front, plastic chairs, a karaoke machine plugged into the porch, kids running around with water pistols, Hong Thong and Leo flowing like a tap nobody had bothered turning off. I got hit with a bucket of cold water from behind by a kid I'd never seen before, and laughed so hard I bent over. Mei Deng had me by the elbow at one point, introducing me to half the village in turn, and I just kept saying "Sawadee crap" and pressing my hands together and bowing until my back hurt. Pim's younger sister Nok arrived day 2 as well. I'd met her once before, briefly when she was home from uni at New Year. 19 studying pharmacy at Konkane University, the one in the family who'd got out. She wore glasses and read books and had this dry sense of humor that came through even in her broken English, which was better than anyone else's in that family by a country mile. She was different this visit, quieter, stayed in corners, helped Mei Dang with the dishes and didn't laugh much. I noticed, but I didn't think much of it. I was deep in the celebration, getting wet, drinking too much Hong Tong with T and his mates. She's tired, I thought. Long bus ride. Exam stress. Day 3 was the cool-down day. The big party was over. The relatives who'd come from Bangkok and Konkane had cleared off. Just the immediate family at the new house. Mei Deng, poor Som Chai, T for a bit before he went home, Pim, Fern, me, and Nok. Mei Deng made a slow dinner of curry and rice. We ate on the porch, watched the sun come down behind the rice paddies. By 9, everybody was knackered and going to bed. I'd brought a bottle of Chivas back through duty-free at Suvarnabhumi when I'd done a visa run to Vientiane in February. 12-year. Hadn't really opened it. I'd had a couple of glasses with Pim's dad on Songkran day 1, but that was it. I poured myself one out on the porch after everyone went in, sat on a plastic stool, looked at the stars. There aren't many lights in that village, mate. The Milky Way was right there, like a smudge of chalk across the sky. Knock came out about 10 minutes later with 2 glasses, held one out to me. "I have one with you, Uncle?" "You don't tell my mother." I poured her a small one. She sat on the plastic stool next to mine, knees together, glass in both hands. We talked about uni for a bit, her course, the girls in her dorm, the boys she sort of liked, stuff to keep the conversation easy. She's a good kid, Knock. Smart, funny when she's relaxed. I poured her a second one, smaller. She drank both quicker than she should have. Then she went quiet. She'd been quiet most of the evening, but this was different. Looking at her glass, not drinking, tears just running down her face, no sound, no shoulder shaking, no warning. I said, "Knock, love, what's the matter? You homesick? Boyfriend trouble?" She shook her head, couldn't speak. I sat there, glass in my hand, thinking, Christ, did somebody do something to her at uni? My brain going to all the worst places. I waited. She wiped her eyes with the back of her wrist, took a breath. "Uncle, I have to tell you, sorry, I cannot more. I didn't understand." "Cannot more what, love?" She looked at me proper for the first time. Her eyes were red, and she was 20 years older than 19 suddenly. That look kids get when they've decided to do an adult thing. "My sister, Pim. She has husband." I went very still. "His name's Sak. He work in Rayong. Big factory, oil. 4 year ago, he goes south for work. They no divorce, only separate. Paper not finish. He come back some weekend, not many, but come back. I couldn't say anything. The shivas tasted like nothing in my mouth. Everybody know, Knock said. My mother know. My father know. My brother know. Whole village know. Ake is Sack brother. He come for eat free because he tells Sack. See foreigner is fool. Pim ask him no come, he come anyway sometimes. Pim afraid you see him angry. Tonight day 3. Songkran she is calm only because Sack no come this Songkran, he work overtime in Rayong. She was crying properly now. I sorry, uncle. I sorry. I see what you do. New house, the shop, mom medicine, papa I see and I cannot more. You good man, you don't deserve. I asked her, slow, does Pim love me, Knock? Or was the whole thing, was it all a lie? She looked at me hard. She's a clever kid. She thought before she answered. Then she said the line that's been in my head every night since. Uncle, my sister, she like you. Real. She say you good man kind. She like to be with you. But also she need money. For mama, for papa, for Fern, for brother some. So she like you and need money. Both true, uncle. Both true. I sorry. Both true. I sat on that porch with my mouth open. There was nothing to say. The shivas was warm in the bottom of my glass. A dog barked somewhere down the road. May Dang was snoring through the open window behind us. Knock cried herself out. Eventually, said I, sorry, uncle, one more time, and went to bed. I didn't move for a long time after she left. I watched the Milky Way. I thought about the soapy water at the sink on Christmas Day. I thought about the contract in Thai I hadn't asked to translate. I thought about the Isuzu D-Max. I thought about Ake eating noodles for free with Pim's flat voice saying no problem. I thought about all the moments the math hadn't added up, and I told myself I was a suspicious old bastard. I wasn't suspicious enough. About 2 in the morning, I got up and walked through the new house. Quiet, in socks, so I didn't wake anyone. I looked at the bathroom I'd paid for, the kitchen with the tiled bench, the bedroom where May Dang was sleeping in a proper bed for the first time in her life, the little altar where she'd put her photos of her parents and the Buddha I'd seen her wheel across the road. I didn't feel angry, mate. That's the strangest part. 1,500 expected I would when this moment finally came. I thought I'd want to break things, wake Pim up, have it out, throw the Shivas bottle through a window. What I felt was tired, bone tired. The exact same tiredness I'd felt walking out of Townsville Hospital after Dr. Patel told me I was clear. What was all this for then? Same question, different ending. I went back to the bedroom Pim and I were sharing. She was asleep on her side, one hand under her cheek. She looked 34. She looked like the woman who'd sat on my couch with her hands in her lap 11 months ago, embarrassed about a motorbike loan. I stood in the doorway for a minute and looked at her. I didn't hate her. I didn't even hate her then. I went to the bag I'd brought for Songkran. Didn't really pack. Just put my passport and my wallet in my pocket and my phone. Left the clothes. Left the watch on the nightstand because she'd given it to me for my birthday. Left everything. Sat on the porch till sunrise. Ordered a grab on the app at 5:30. 40 minutes to Udon. Got in the car. Driver tried to chat. I shook my head and looked out the window at the rice paddies going past in the gray morning light. At Udon Airport, I bought the first flight to Bangkok with a seat, Thai smile, 1,100 baht, leaving at 9:15. Texted Pim from the gate. Had to go. Work thing. Talk later. Switch the phone off. That was it. That's how it ended. 11 months of building, 14 months in country, 110 grand Aussie out the door, and the whole thing finished with 5 words on a phone screen at an airport gate in Udon, Thani. The plane took off. I looked down at the Green Abasan from the window, and I didn't cry, didn't shake, didn't anything. Just sat there, empty, tired, done. Bangkok. Sukhumvit. I got off the plane at Don Muang at 10:30 in the morning and got in a grab and asked the driver to take me to the first 3-star hotel he could find on Sukhumvit. He dropped me at a place near Asoka, 1,600 baht a night, no view, single bed, kettle, a window that looked at another window across an air shaft. That'd do. I switched the phone back on just to check the bookings. There were 11 missed calls from Pim, 23 voice messages, 6 text messages, all in Thai. I deleted the messages without translating them. I couldn't. That's the truth. I was scared if I read them, I'd ring her back, and I couldn't ring her back because what was I going to say? Knock had a single message in English. "I sorry, uncle. You go safe." I didn't reply. Switched the phone off again. 4 days in that room. I'm not proud of any of it. Walked down to the 7-Eleven on the corner 3 or 4 times a day for chawing and toasted ham and cheese sandwiches in the plastic toaster bag thing they do, and then back up to the room and sat on the edge of the bed, watching the Border Gavaskar replays on a dodgy stream on my laptop. Didn't shower for 2 days. Didn't eat anything that wasn't from the 7-Eleven. The aircon ran the whole time on full, and I sat there in a hotel dressing gown with a Chang in my hand and watched Steve Smith bat in 2014. And I just sat there. Day 4, I booked the flight. Bangkok to Sydney to Townsville. Thai Airways, then Qantas. 8 grand baht for the international leg. 3 grand for the domestic. Cried on the plane somewhere over the top end. Quiet kind, not the heaving kind. Just water running down my face into my shirt. Bloke next to me very politely pretended he hadn't noticed. Townsville Airport, Tuesday afternoon, April 22nd. Trish was at the carousel because I'd texted her from Sydney saying I was coming home, and she was the only person in the world I had to tell. She took one look at me and didn't say anything, just hugged me. I cried again then. Bald 63-year-old roofer crying onto his sister's shoulder at the baggage claim. Don't recommend it. I'll do you the maths because I know you're wondering. I went into Thailand with 95 grand cash on top of the super and the pension. I came out with about 4 grand cash and the 800 grand baht, about 35 Aussie, locked in a Bangkok bank account I left there because I didn't have the energy to close it. I've since pulled 6 grand of it across. The rest I've left because it's not really mine in my head. It's the part one was meant to leave behind. Call it a tip. Tally of what's gone. The motorbike loan in April, 2 grand. The medical for May dying and Porsum Chai's eyes, 8 grand. The noodle shop, 38 grand. The house, 62 and a half. Plus all the bits in between. Flights, the apartment in Nong Khai for 14 months. Food, the click. The tools I had shipped over and didn't bring back. Monthly money to the family I haven't even mentioned because it felt small at the time. Round numbers, 110 grand Aussie. Out the door, gone, never coming back. The shop's still going. I check the Facebook page sometimes. Well, I check it about twice a week, which I know is sad, but there it is. Pim's still in there, ladling broth. T's posted photos of the Isuzu in the car park. The house I built is in a few of the photos in the background, looking very nice, fresh paint. Mei Deng waving from the porch. None of it's mine. None of it ever was. The contract was in Thai, and I signed it. The land was Porsum Chai's, and I knew it. I was paying for things I'd never owned from the start. The lawyer told me, in a manner of speaking, and I nodded along. I can't sue. I knew that before the plane even took off. There's no court in Isian that's going to look at a 49% Farang minority shareholder and a director loan and a building on someone else's land and say you've been wrong, sir. The system isn't broken. The system did exactly what it's set up to do. Rented a unit in Kerwin 4 weeks after I got back. $380 a week, 1 bedroom, ground floor, little patio out the back with a Hills hoist. Bought a second-hand recliner off Marketplace for $80 and a 55-inch TCL telly off JB Hi-Fi for $900. That's basically the lot. Some kitchen stuff. A kettle, a toaster. The pension started $1,100 a fortnight, plus what I draw down from the super every month. And I'm not going to be on the street, but I'm not going to Bali for the wet season either. The cancer scans are still clear. That's the main thing, I keep telling myself. That's the main thing. Went back to the RSL the second Thursday I was home. Maka was there in his usual spot. He saw me come in and his face did a complicated thing. Relief, curiosity, a bit of uh-oh. And he said, "Daz, mate, you're back. How was it? I said, yeah, mate. Learned a few things. He waited. I changed the subject. Asked him about the cricket. He let me. That's the kindness of an old bloke at an RSL. They know when to push and when to leave it. We've not really talked about it since, although he's looked at me a few times like he wants to ask, and I've looked at him a few times like don't, and we've left it at that. Haven't told Brad, haven't told Trish the full story either, just an outline. Didn't work out, lost some money, leaving it at that. The shame is the worst bit, not the money, the shame. The fact that I'm a bloke who survived bowel cancer at 60, who'd worked roofs for 45 years and had a head on his shoulders. And I let it happen anyway. Because somebody made me feel like I belonged. Because an old woman called me her son. That's the part that gets me at 3 in the morning when I can't sleep. Now look, 6 months on, I've had time to think. I don't think Pim was a bar girl playing a long con. I don't. I never will. I think she did like me, in her way. I think if I'd had no money, she'd have liked me slightly less, but she'd still have liked me, and I think Nock was telling the truth. Both true. I think the family, Mei Deng, Por Somchai, T, sat down together at some point and decided collectively that the foreigner was the answer to a lot of long-running problems, and Pim was the instrument. The sick mum, the blind dad, the wood house with the termites and the stilts, the brother who wanted a ute. They weren't evil people. They were just poor people with an opportunity walking around in their village, wearing thongs and asking how he could help. And I think Nock told me, because Nock is 19 and still believes there's a right and a wrong, give her another 10 years in that family and she'd have kept her mouth shut. I'm grateful she didn't. So here's what I'd say, mate, to anyone watching this who's thinking about retiring in Thailand. It's not don't go. Plenty of blokes are over there happy as Larry. I've met them. They're real. Don't let me put you off the country. But don't put a single dollar on the table until you've met everyone. Not just her, not just her mum. Everyone. The brother, the cousin, the ex-husband, the bloke who eats free at the shop. Stay long enough to see who turns up on a Tuesday afternoon when nobody's expecting visitors. That's where the truth lives. Big parties, you see what they want you to see. Wednesday lunchtime, you see what's actually going on. Don't make money feel like nothing, even when it is nothing to you, especially then. The minute you make it feel like nothing in front of someone for whom money is everything, you're done. The dynamic is set and you can't unset it. Spend like you're a bit tight, even if you're not. Make the family work for it a little. They'll respect you more, not less. If anyone says this is normal, this is how everybody does. And I promise you they'll say it. That's the moment to walk to the door. This is how everybody does is the most expensive 5 words I ever heard. Get the contract translated by a different lawyer, by 2 different lawyers if you have to. If you can't afford to ask for a translation in front of someone, you can't afford to sign. And give it a year, a whole year. Don't buy a noodle shop in month 7. Don't build a house in month 11. Time is the only thing you've got that they can't fake. I'll tell you the last thing, then I'll shut up. I went to Thailand because I was scared of dying alone in a fibro house in Townsville with the cricket on the telly and nobody to bring me a cup of tea. Now I'm in a unit in Kerwin with the cricket on the telly and nobody to bring me a cup of tea, and I'm 110 grand poorer for the round trip. The funny thing, the genuinely funny thing, is I'm all right. I'm not happy exactly. I miss her, mate. I'm not going to pretend I don't. I miss Mei Deng's larb. I miss Fern's drawings. But I'm all right. The cancer's still gone. I've got my super. I've got my sister. I've got Macca at the RSL on Thursdays. The world didn't end. I'm not angry at Pim, mate. Not really. I'm angry at me a bit. Should have checked. Could have checked. Didn't. But mostly I just hope the kid's all right. The little one. Fern. She didn't ask for any of it. None of it was her doing. I hope the new house keeps her warm in the wet season, and I hope her mum's okay, and I hope somewhere down the line she doesn't end up in the same spot her mother was in, juggling family and a man she likes, and a wallet and a phone face down on the table. I hope someone teaches her better than her family taught Pim. That's all I hope, really. Anyway, that's me done. Cheers for listening. There it is, Daza Whitfield's story, in his own words. It's not the kind of story we usually tell on this channel. There's no clean villain in it. There's no bar girl. There's no scam in the way that word usually gets used on the internet. What there is a lonely man with money and a poor family with problems, and the long, slow collision of two completely different ideas about what money is for and what family means and what a son-in-law owes. Australian individualism met Isan family obligation in a village outside Nong Khai, and the Australian individualism lost $110,000 in a year and change of his life. If you're watching this and you're thinking about retiring in Thailand, and a lot of you are, that's why this video is in your feed. Take Daza's lessons seriously because they cost him real money to learn. Meet the family before the wallet comes out, not just her parents. Everyone. Stay in the country a year before any major financial commitment. Not 3 months, not 6. A year. Watch who turns up on quiet weekdays when there's no party and no one expecting visitors. Don't make money feel like nothing. Don't sign anything in a language you can't read, even if it makes the room awkward. And if anyone, a partner, a brother-in-law, a lawyer above a 7-Eleven, tells you this is how everybody does it, treat that sentence as a fire alarm. Walk to the door. This isn't a video telling you don't go to Thailand. Millions of foreigners live happy, rich, full lives there, in genuine relationships, with families they love and who love them back. The country is one of the great places on earth to grow old in if you do it with your eyes open. What this channel is here for is to make sure your eyes are open before you put the deposit down. That's all. Big thanks to Daza for sharing his story. It takes a fair bit of guts to sit down and tell strangers on the internet about losing 110 grand and a woman you loved. And he did it without bitterness, without blaming anyone but himself for the bits that were on him, and with more compassion for Pim and her family than most blokes would manage in his shoes. Tip of the hat to him. If this video helped you, the kindest thing you can do is leave a comment with what stood out. Those comments are what gets these stories in front of the next bloke who needs them before he gets on the plane. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. This is Thailand.